Yeah, I know it's been a minute. I know I wasn't missed. First up at featherweight, we have Costa versus Becky. I'll start off with my prediction. I got Melquizel Costa by second round TKO. Costa being the guy with the height and reach advantage and knowing how to use it very well and having superior striking on the feet, I think he can get this done easily. Now, like every fighter in every fight, there are things he has to watch out for, but especially with Becky, who's actually sneaky fast and explosive. And he will oftentimes mix up his striking with his grappling, which is something that you should do. I just think he'll have a hard time no matter where the fight goes with Costa, who's going to be using his range, using the kicks, using the punches to the gut, which Becky is weak to, and having the finish by the second round. On to the next one. Another one at featherweight, which will probably end pretty quickly. Jekka Suragi versus Weston Wilson. I got Suragi by first round finish. Look, Weston Wilson is one of the worst fighters I think I've ever seen in the octagon. Now, I know what you're probably saying. He can beat you in a fight. I bet you he couldn't. I bet you watching this could probably beat him in a fight. This guy doesn't know how to use his range. He has absolutely no sting on his punches, and these fighters just walk through it. He's also pretty chinny. Like, he's the perfect highlight for fighters. And that's a sad thing to say, and I'm sorry, but I'm just telling the truth. I'm just calling it how I see it, okay? On to the next one. We have one at flyweight now. Jimmy Throwing Bricks Flick versus Nate Maness. Now, I know why the odds are like that, and I don't really agree with it, but I can see where y'all are coming from. Look, we all think Nate Maness is finna just run through Jimmy Flick, and trust me, I actually have Nate Maness as my pick. By second round TKO to be specific. But I also think that this is going to be one of those fights where whoever can impose their will win. If Jimmy Flick can get it to the ground, he might win. But if Nate Maness can keep it on the feet, obviously he'll win. I just think Nate Maness has the grappling to get back to the feet if Jimmy Flick is to get him down, more so than Jimmy Flick is to defend against the Nate Maness assault. But hey, only time will tell. Right on to the another flyweight banger, Tagir Ulanbekov versus Joshua Van. The height and reach advantage will be very obvious when they step into that octagon together. But despite those odds, I'm still going to be going with the underdog here in Joshua Van. Now, a lot of y'all might find that very surprising, and I understand. Tagir Ulanbekov is way more tested. It's more of the grappler coming into this fight, so that means that he'll have an advantage on the feet as well, because if you don't know by now, if you are a grappler, your striking will look a lot better if the person is worried about that takedown. And I know it seems like all of the odds are stacked up against Joshua Van in this fight, but he's still very young. He has so much room to grow. And this man has been like a stone wall for takedowns. If you try to take this man down, you have a very small chance of getting him down. And if you do get him down, you have a pretty small chance of keeping him there. But I mean, if anybody can do it, it is Ulanbekov right here. I just think with all the odds stacked up against him, Joshua Van is about to show us a whole new level. I mean, he's come back stronger every single fight. He's a slow starter, though, so I'm very worried about that. I'm very worried about that slow start. Van by decision. Next, we have a welterweight scrap with Josh Kinlan versus Adam Fuggett. This is an absolutely winnable fight for Josh Kinlan, but the problem is he's struggled with people taller than him in the past. Yes, I know there's only a 1-inch height difference. I'm talking about the reach. He has a 5-inch reach advantage, Adam Fuggett does, over Josh Kinlan. And I think Kinlan is definitely going to struggle with that, and he struggled in the past before with people like this. He also will have to be careful if he takes it to the ground, because Adam is very good there too. You know, at this point it's kind of a running joke to go with Adam just because of his name. Is that a good reason to pick him? Absolutely not, but am I going to anyway? Fuck it. Adam by decision. Next up at flyweight, we have Asu Almabayev versus Jose Johnson, and this is only going to go one of two ways. Almabayev by first round submission or Almabayev by a decision. Next up at bantamweight, we have Brady Highstand versus Garrett Armfield. Gary Armfield becomes a knockout artist. Gary Minefield. Yeah, if it's not obvious already, I have Gary Armfield by decision. I do think Gary can keep it at his own pace. I think any takedown coming his way will be stuffed simply because the way he fights. He has a very wide base. And not only does he have a very wide base, but he also puts pressure on the wrestler if he is fighting a wrestler. But yeah, that's really all I got to say about this one. I think Gary keeps it in his own pace. I think he's tricky on the feet. I think he'll stuff any takedown that comes his way. I think he has it in the bag, but probably by decision. I think Brady can definitely survive whatever gets thrown at him. Next up at featherweight, Timmy Kawamba versus Lucas Almeida. And there's not much information on Timmy, so I'm just going to go with him because he looks like he knocked the block off someone. Tell me he does. Next up, we have Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Miles Johns, and this is going to be a pretty close one. feel like this should be a pick'em fight, and it's pretty close to that, but it's not quite. I wonder what they are right now, though. What's the live betting on? Anyway, doesn't matter. I feel like this fight will be entertaining, and I do think Douglas Silva de Andrade will probably get a flash knockout or get absolutely torn to pieces. I got Douglas Silva de Andrade by second round knockout. Next up at flyweight, we have Alex Perez versus Tatsuro Taira, and it's next up, but it is our main event. Why not go ahead and hand Superman some kryptonite? Because Alex Perez's biggest weakness throughout his entire UFC career has been grappler. Now, Tatsuro Taira is still pretty noob on the feet, and I do think Perez could definitely get some things done, but he has to be so aggressive in this fight. If he gives Tatsuro Taira one takedown and it's completed, I think it's over for him. And so, I have Tatsuro Taira by a first round submission. I'm just playing with y'all. I have Tatsuro Taira by decision.